In the silent theater of romance, a powerful illusion often goes unnoticed. You think you're seen, but you're being measured. You think you're loved, but you're only playing a role. The tragedy is ancient, and Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, saw it coming. He mapped it with frightening clarity, not with comfort or optimism, but with surgical precision. Jung warned that romantic love is often a projection, not an embrace of who you are, but of who the other imagines you to be. Especially, he found, in the way women can unknowingly project their inner masculine image, the animus, onto men. Women, Jung noted, don't just fall in love with men, they fall for their imagined ideal of a man. Most of the time, they don't even realize this. A man may believe he's being chosen for who he is, but in reality, he is being cast as a character in her private, unconscious narrative. When he fails to live up to the fantasy, the role is recast, not rewritten. The story remains the same, the actor simply changes. This projection is rooted in the animus, the internal masculine archetype that lives within every woman. When undeveloped or unconscious, the animus becomes tyrannical. It drives irrational conflict, domination, and idealization. Men become characters rather than people, evaluated not on who they are but on how well they perform. For men, this creates a dangerous trap. Many are never taught to recognize projection. They equate being desired with being truly seen, being chosen with being deeply known. They are seduced not by love, but by the illusion of it. And when the illusion collapses, they are discarded. Not for their failures, but for failing to be someone they never truly were. Jung's answer to this entrapment wasn't external change, it was inner transformation. He called it individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole within oneself. But the truth is painful. Most men never begin this journey. They are conditioned to seek approval, to mold themselves into what they believe women want, sacrificing their authenticity for fleeting validation. Individuation is not glamorous. It demands a brutal confrontation with the parts of yourself you've buried, the weak, the insecure, the ashamed. It demands you stop blaming women and begin seeing yourself clearly. You become a man not when you're chosen by her, but when you choose yourself, when you stand without applause, without need, without illusion. Jung believed the greatest tragedy of modern man is self-betrayal, twisting oneself into a shape that fits someone else's fantasy. You call it compromise, love, partnership. Jung called it what it is, surrendering your soul to projection. You stop being a man and become a mask, smiling, nodding, obeying, until you forget who you were. Ironically, the very qualities that men believe will make them lovable, obedience, consistency, availability, often lead to their emotional disposal. Why is that? Because as Jung taught, the feminine instinct is not drawn to safety, but to mystery. When you become fully known, without boundaries, without backbone, you don't become more lovable, you actually become invisible. Most men, honestly, fear being alone more than they fear being fake. But Jung insisted until a man embraces solitude, he cannot be free. Individuation is a death of the false self, so that something real can be born. And yes, it is terrifyingly lonely. You see things others don't. You're mocked, misunderstood, maybe even called arrogant, but that's not your failure, it's their fear. People really hate mirrors that reflect their shadow. Jung didn't spare women from this reckoning either. He warned that many are raised in cultures that teach them to avoid confronting their own shadow. They're told they are complete, pure, intuitive. But the unconscious animus inside them, when left unexamined, becomes a voice of false certainty and superiority. It controls them, leading them to blame men for the war they refuse to fight within themselves. Men think they can save her, prove themselves, win her love. But honestly, you can't fight her inner war. You can only fight yours. You weren't cast to be her savior. You were hired to play a mythic role. And you failed not because of your flaws, but because you were never the character she projected. Jung warned, projection is a thief. It steals reality, replacing it with fantasy. Until both men and women confront their inner world, they will remain trapped in a cycle of blame, betrayal, and broken illusions. The woman who once called you her hero will call you her enemy. Not because you changed, but because you failed to fulfill a fantasy you never knew existed. In the end, Jung's question echoes, why did you let yourself be chosen by that woman in the first place? You're not a victim, you're a volunteer. You played the fool because, honestly, facing your emptiness was scarier than living a lie. And this is where most men turn away. This is where the comfort ends. Jung never gave easy answers. He offered only the long, brutal path of self-confrontation. To sit in silence, to let the illusions die, to allow the voice that says, "You are nothing without her," to dissolve. But when that voice dies, something new is born. You become real, not cold, not distant, but fully alive. Women sense this. The irony is that when you stop performing, stop needing, stop chasing, they are drawn to you, not because you want them, but because you no longer need them. And in time, a woman will appear, not the fantasy, not the goddess, not the one seeking to complete you, but the one who has faced her own shadow. She will not demand a role from you, she will walk her own path, and beside her, you will walk yours. No masks, no illusions, just truth. That love, raw, real, free, is dangerous. Not because it wounds, but because it requires everything. It demands nothing but offers all. Most will never taste it. They will settle for performance, fantasy, validation. But if you endure the fire, if you walk that terrifying path to selfhood, you will stop being a character and become a man. In the end, Jung left us not a map, but a warning. If you don't face your own soul, you'll be enslaved by the projections of others. But he also left us a challenge, to stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing ourselves, because the man who chooses himself cannot be controlled. He becomes the author of his own life, and when that happens, love ceases to be a role. It becomes a choice, not from need, but from wholeness.